Hey everyone, my name is Ash. I used to play soccer for Australia and now I am a full-time yoga and meditation teacher. Growing up, I was active, I was competitive, I couldn't sit still for like 3 seconds, and meditation changed my life. So in this video, I want to cover one of the biggest misconceptions about meditation, what I wish I knew when I started my inward journey, and what to expect going in to set you up for success. Alrighty, hello. Welcome to Meditation Insight number 2. So today what I want to talk about is something called the noble failure. Now, it's not a failure, it's a noble failure, which is slightly different. And today we're going to be diving into what the hell a noble failure is. And so many of us have this belief about meditation being something that induces a state of calm. And maybe we've heard the science, it's not all woo-woo, it's very real. And maybe we've heard the way people talk about meditation with such confidence in its strong and positive effect. Maybe we just have this vision of meditation being this really calm Zen practice. And then, when we close our eyes and go inside, we are met with anything but a calm or peaceful or relaxing experience. We are confronted by all of this noise, all of this overthinking and busyness, and it's like our mind is on this loop of the ever-repeating known, or going back through our history, replaying memories back to us and searching forwards into the future to predict and analyze or judge. Our mind can feel like this never-ending, ceaseless river of churning activity. And so if you have experienced any of this, I would officially like to welcome you to the noble failure. Now, it's not a failure, it just feels like one. It feels like a failure because we have come into direct contact with the nature of our own mind. But what I want you to know is this is not a failure. This is the whole point of meditation. This is the essence. This is the key. And this is the reason it's called a noble failure. Because now that we've come into direct contact with the nature of our own mind, we now have this much needed vantage point from which to observe, understand, and actually embrace the nature of occupying one of these human minds. And so when we close our eyes and we go into meditation, the first stage is to observe, oh wow, my mind is doing that thing. It's moving, running, jumping so fast. It feels maybe seemingly out of control, or it's worrying, or it's judging, or whatever your mind might be doing. And second is to actually understand this is normal, this is natural. I haven't stuffed up the meditation. I haven't, done anything wrong. This is the nature of my mind. And the third step is to embrace, to have compassion without an attack. And compassion is, of course, born from understanding. And so from our observation, we can have the understanding, and then we can embrace and have that level of compassion where we're not making our mind the enemy in our meditation. That certainly isn't what meditation is trying to achieve, but we can work with meditation to actually create a relationship with our own mind that can serve us far outside the eyes closed down experience of meditation, but actually out in the practice of living, which is what I believe meditation is the practice of. And so it's from this place that we can now go on a really profound journey with ourselves. Before we have this recognition, before we meet the noble failure, meditation only feels like a failure. Our story will be, I suck at meditation, or yeah, I tried meditation once or twice, but it's not for me, it's just not my thing. But the reality is we just haven't yet maybe understood the function of meditation or the nature of our own mind. And if we only recognize it as a failure, like many, we just give up on the pursuit of meditation because, we tried one technique once. And from that experience where it feels like it really wasn't for us, we go ahead and we throw away every technique, tradition, and style under the sun and all of the ancient wisdom and knowledge that goes with it. And so I get it. Why would you continue with something if it only feels like we're failing at it? And so this is why it's so important we recognize the noble aspect of what feels like a failure. And so all initial attempts of meditation, it's a part of the journey as a new meditator, is to meet this noble failure. The recognition that it is near impossible, I'll never say impossible, to maintain a fixed awareness on anything for more than a few seconds, maybe minutes, if you're lucky, at a time. And so our mind has a nature, just like any living thing has a nature. Even things that aren't perhaps alive have their own nature too. And the nature of something are its basic inherent qualities and characteristics and features. And so our mind has a nature, and the nature of our mind is to think. Our mind is like a thinking machine, and trying to empty, stop, or control your mind, or stop your mind from thinking, is kind of like trying to stop water from being wet. It's just not possible. And so the best thing that anything can do, I believe, is to act in accordance with its own nature, to not try or pretend to be anything that it's not or that we're not. And that's what nature, I'm looking out on this beautiful view of Bali right now, does so well. Nature just does its naturey thing oh so well. It doesn't try to be anything that it's not. We as humans, however, have this capacity to go against parts of our own nature, and not only to be disappointed or disheartened by them, but to actually put up resistance. And that's certainly not what meditation is trying to achieve. This internal conflict or battle or war within ourselves where one part of us is in conflict with another part. It doesn't really make sense for us to be disappointed, disheartened, or frustrated by the nature of our mind from playing out its inherent qualities and function. And even though it doesn't feel like it, our thoughts are there to try and protect us, not to sabotage our experience of life or our meditation. And so now I want to come to a really, really important point. And this point is about disentangling. And so we've established that our mind has a nature. The nature of our mind, the function of our mind, is to think. Our mind has thoughts, but we are not our thoughts. Thoughts are something we have. They are not who we are. We have a far deeper nature, our true nature. And so through meditation, we are learning to disentangle two threads that are often wound together so tightly that we forget or believe them to be one in the same. And so our mind has a nature and we have a nature. And it's so important that through meditation we cultivate the art of discernment between these two. It can be incredibly dangerous to derive our sense of self, derive our sense of who we are from the nature of our mind, which we've said can feel busy, sporadic, random, incessant, judgmental, constantly worrying. If we derive our sense of self from the nature of our mind, we think we are crazy and seemingly out of control and judgmental. And so through the practice of meditation and also yoga, we learn to disentangle these two threads, the nature of our mind from our true nature, this deeper inner stillness, this witness, the purest form of awareness before the I, me, my story can jump in. And so the question becomes, how in the world do I find the quality of calm or a moment of internal peace whilst embracing the nature of my own mind? And now this is a really great question, because it can feel like the very thing we're trying to bring stillness or peace to is the thing that's getting in the way. And so there's this question: how do I avoid this internal kind of conflict from spiraling out of control whilst embracing the nature of my own mind, to meet my own deeper nature? And so the best way I feel I can describe this is with an analogy of a glass of water. So say you have a glass and the glass is full. It's full of water, and you're asked to empty the glass. And so you go ahead and tip the water out, and you would say, now the glass is empty. But could we not also say that now the glass is full of air or space? And so our mind is the same. We're not trying to empty it. We're trying to fill ourselves up with presence, with awareness, inviting in rather than kicking out. There's such a different energy behind, welcoming something in and pushing something away, kicking something out, setting up this force field barrier around us because, we've decided it's time to meditate, and therefore all thoughts must now come to this abrupt halt, and you put up this resistance and defense to parts of our own nature. Instead, if we go with an energy of actually opening ourselves up, welcoming in the breath, inviting in presence, inviting in whatever our present moment anchor is, whatever you're working with in meditation, a little deeper, it can be a much, much more pleasant experience. And so you might be wondering, does that mean that I will always be experiencing thoughts? Does that mean I'll always be thinking, even though I might, be elevating the quality of my thoughts in meditation? Will I always have to have a mind that is full? And my answer is not necessarily. It is possible for our awareness to shift into different states of consciousness. We can travel through layers of consciousness. And so it's only the surface layer of our mind that thinks. And like we said, when our awareness deepens and we shift into different states of consciousness, we meet deeper aspects of ourself. Maybe we meet our true nature, this pure, simple form of awareness. It's not that our mind is empty, and it's not that thoughts on the surface layer of our mind have stopped or ceased to exist. Just like if you traveled to the depth of the ocean, it's not that the waves on the surface have ceased to exist. It's not that there's no more movement or activity up on the surface layer just because we have maybe taken a submarine all the way down to the very bottom. All it means is that my awareness has traveled somewhere deeper for a little while. And so thoughts or thinking are no longer top of my mind. They're no longer bothering me in this moment. And so we can experience this early on in our meditation practice, but as we develop the meditation muscle, or we kind of work with the training ground of our mind, this experience opens up to us more and more. So hopefully this understanding of the noble failure helps you to break through some of the initial struggles and challenges that are presented early on in our meditation practice. And even after years of meditating, I still have to remind myself, because inherent within the nature of the mind is the capacity and the tendency to forget. And it's actually crazy how quickly we can forget and, fall back into old habits and patterns. And so meditation is a practice. We call it the practice of meditation because it's simply a practice for the way we want to be in the world. It's a practice for living with integrity, intention, with more clarity, more grace. It's not that my life is so graceful, but I do feel that if I was able to look into some other timeline in a world where Ash didn't meditate, I'm sure I'd be able to confirm that this existence in this world here, where Ash does meditate, is far more graceful. And so that is insight number 2, and I hope you found it helpful. I'd love to hear any reflections and any shares, any questions, any bumps or blocks as well in your meditation journey, so I can meet you and your messages can inform the topics I speak about, because the umbrella of meditation is so wildly vast. There's so much to cover. Otherwise, of course, you can continue to follow along, listen along, and I'll continue to share what I feel is most relevant. So with that, thank you again for your time, for your energy, for your presence, and I will see you in the next meditation insight or the next meditation practice. With so much love. Thank you.